All right, well, I'm going to review an absolutely cool movie that probably nobody has ever seen because it's a movie that just basically exists in the background ethers of the Tarantino lineup. You know, those really cool, badass films that have all kinds of random events seemingly in them and, has a lot of gratuitous violence in them. And this is the type of movie that is Tarantino-esque, but has many, many parts that don't even feel like Tarantino at all. So let's check into it. Now, the movie has a major spoiler at the end, so if you haven't seen it, I implore you go watch it. It's a stellar film, and it's a really, really, really good old school kind of, like if you're looking to get a Pulp Fiction fix, you go to True Romance. It's so good. And you know what? It's a movie that's hidden in the history books of a hidden gem at this point, because you hardly ever hear anybody to ever talk about it. The movie, of course, is the 1993 romance thriller True Romance, and true to its name, it does have a lot of romance in it, but it also has a lot of just very Tarantino epic scenes, epic characters, insane graphic violence, and, just that kind of dirty, seedy underworld aesthetic that Tarantino is known for. Now, Tarantino actually wrote True Romance, and basically this movie does feel Tarantino, but it doesn't have many aspects of Tarantino. There are characters that are heroic in it. There are characters who succeed, and there are characters who fail. It's not completely Tarantino, and actually the ending alone, spoiler alert, was influenced partly by Tarantino. He had originally made the character Clarence die at the end to give it kind of, like the classic Tarantino, not everything subvert expectations, not everything happens the way you think it is, but actually they decided in the end that Christian Slater's Clarence was such a likable character, they wanted to give him a hero's end, and that's what they got in the end. So you'll find that very strange, because at first it looks like he dies and it feels very Tarantino, but then he succeeds at the end and lives life happily ever after. And oh my god, yeah, now you're not Tarantino. So the movie is packed to the gills with famous actors that just come and go and are everywhere. In fact, there's so many famous, incredible actors in this. It's almost hard to, shake a stick at. You got Christian Slater, who is normally known, looks like the good guy. He always seems like the good guy, but in this movie, he's not the most best guy. He's just awesome. He's a cool dude. He's awesome. You got Patricia Arquette as Alabama, who's really, really smoking. She's cool. She seems stupid, but she acts really smart at parts. It's epic. You have an unbelievable but short appearance from Gary Oldman, who plays as Drexel, and he's like this thinks he's black gangster guy, and he's just like a drug dealer, and he's so weird. And in this movie, he nails it. Gary Oldman's a legend, of course. Now you have Dennis Hopper. He's the father, protecting his son. Finally comes to love his son. Incredible moments from him. And you got actually a very short but amazing cameo from Christopher Walken. Now, Christopher Walken in this movie is in his element. He's a gangster, Sicilian mafia boss, and he just comes in and steals the show. It's one of the most incredible scenes with him and Dennis Hopper. It's just, you gotta see it. It's so cool. It's so wicked. It just comes across as one of the most badass scenes ever. You gotta see it. It's just, Christopher Walken is short in this, but he's there. I didn't even know he was in this at first, but Val Kilmer makes an appearance. He's Elvis Presley. There's these scenes where Clarence is kind of like in the bathroom, and he's, just sitting in the bathroom talking to Elvis, because he idolizes Elvis. And lo and behold, Elvis Presley is played by Val Kilmer. You won't even know it because you don't even see his face, but yeah, I mean, the legend Val Kilmer is even in this. but the list of cameos just keeps going on. Samuel L. Jackson is a gangster in it. Chris Penn is a cop. Tom Sizemore is another cop leading an undercover operation. So you got those two legends working together. You've got so many actors that are in this. They're great. Victor Argo, amazing actor, well recognized face. It just keeps going and going and going, and we haven't even got to the most juicy best ones yet. Now, I could go on and on and on about the star power of this movie, but hilariously, one of the greatest stars in this whole movie, the most popular, well-renowned, top of the Hollywood elite, is in this movie, and that's Brad Pitt. What does Brad Pitt play? A big hardened gangster who saves the day? No. A regular, everyday dude who kind of, beats up a gangster and is all cool? No. Is it is he a mob boss? No. Brad Pitt is in this movie as just a stoner who's living on the couch of Michael Rappaport's Dick Ritchie's character. He's just sitting there blazing the whole time, and lo and behold, he actually is a pivotal moment in the whole entire movie. He actually leads to the characters, like the main character's absolute downfall just by being a stupid stoner sitting on the couch. It's incredible. And when you see him, you're like, is that Brad Pitt? He's just a random stoner dude just sitting on the couch. But there is an actor that deserves a very, very, very honorable mention in this movie, and I can't help but think that this led to his greatest casting role, the one he was renowned for, of course, Tony Soprano. James Gandolfini is this. Now, he starts off in the Dennis Hopper Christopher Walken scene. He's a gangster guy. He's just there. He plays the part, of course, extraordinarily well. And he's just kind of a gangster dude. Now, there's another scene at the end, closer to the end of the movie, where James Gandolfini goes to kill Alabama. He's hunting her down. He's looking for her. He's sent on a mission, obviously, to recover the central MacGuffin of the plot, a big bag of drugs that they found, or that Clarence came across. Now, James Gandolfini has a scene at the end where he's, talking to Alabama about, his first killings and stuff like this. It's just, there's so much heart coming out of James Gandolfini that he just shows off. He's just such an incredible actor. And man, when you're watching this scene, you can look at this as a Tony Soprano origin story. I know that, Tony is in, New Jersey. He's a gangster there. There's different histories, of course, that could intersect with the story of this movie. But man, if you sit back and you think and you use your imagination, that can be Tony Soprano. Of course, his name is Virgil in the story. We don't really get an idea of that. But man, just sit back, just relax. This was made in the 90s. The Sopranos came out about, 10 years later or so. So just sit back and look at James Gandolfini in this movie and use your imagination. And we have a Tony Soprano in his young ages going and doing a mafia hit. But that's all spoiled because he actually dies. But I mean, let's just say for the sake of it that the whole events of the movie don't continue on from that. But I mean, like I said, it's just Tony Soprano in his younger days. It's so good. And the cameos just keep coming, as you will totally miss it, like me. But Jack Black is in True Romance too. He's just a theater guy who goes and shoos people out. He's hardly recognizable, but he is in the movie, and it's just yet another complete cameo of this movie. So we've droned on and on about the random castings, hilarious parts, and random, things about the casting of this movie. We've gone on and on about, so let's talk about the movie itself. Now, the movie centers around Clarence, who's kind of a little bit of a dropout, working at a comic book store. Fate has it. His landlord or boss or whatever orders him a prostitute, Patricia Arquette, who comes in, and they spark this love relationship. He gets her out of the crime light underworld, and he just seems to have it out for Gary Oldman's Drexel. He goes and kills him. It doesn't immediately show it, but there's a big bag of the devil's nose powder there, and he takes it and with the idea of selling it. Now, you can hardly make a movie like this without bad ideas, but it's pretty obvious that Clarence didn't think all this through, showing how everything goes in the end. And you think to yourself, 200 grand, yeah, that's not a lot of money. And, considering all the things he goes through and what he actually attempts, 200 grand is not set for life money, especially in today's world. You can't even buy a house with that money nowadays. But, assuming all things equal, 200 grand in 1993 is about the equivalent of $500,000 today. Still, $500,000 today wouldn't really set you for life, and considering all the things he goes through and all the risks he takes. But, I mean, I think you have to consider the fact that Clarence is kind of a nobody and it has nothing. So, 500K equivalent back then would certainly give him a lot to live on. It's just a crazy random movie that has lots of Tarantino moments in it. Like, for example, like the classic of, I like to think that this movie has lots of drawn similarities to Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Is because there's a scene where just a woman randomly shows up out of nowhere and just starts blasting. Stuff like that. There's the convergence of all the different factions, like the police with the gangsters, with the buyers, and they're all just like in a big shootout at the end. And the general idea of a heist and a big MacGuffin, aka the bag of drugs. It's very Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels. In fact, it's more that than Tarantino, but you can tell the Tarantino writing in it. There's just random events. There's random situations like them going to the amusement park, and just they're riding a thing, and the way it's shot and the way it feels. The guy who gets caught while driving, and accidentally she knocks his hand and shoots the bag of bull all over his face. Just random things like that. Epic cameos like the Christopher Walken scene, Dennis Hopper, just this long drawn out epic scene. It's very much Tarantino in that respect, but it has very different themes to it. And of course, one of the most glaring characters in this whole endeavor is Clarence Christian Slater. He plays this kind of just suave, cool, devil may care type dude who just obviously is just, running down a path of destruction, despite kind of coming across at the beginning of the movie as just kind of a nerd comic book guy. But I think that his inspirations of doing what he does comes from the fact of the movie, of Elvis, watching movies, idolizing Elvis, becoming the king of cool. That's kind of his general motivations towards just running down this crazy spiral. Many people would call it a hidden gem, and I'm sure many people have heard about it, but the thing about True Romance is it's so overshadowed by 90s hits. You have things like Pulp Fiction, Goodfellas, and Casino, and all the movies that came out in the 90s, just an absolute packed movie. But when you take it and you dissect it for what it is today, it's a great movie. But yeah, it hits that hidden gem aspect of it, because man, you have this movie being piled on by thousands of movies potentially, and although it's an excellent movie in its own right, it's not a movie that gets showcased a lot, because I mean, you have like your Pulp Fictions, your this, your that, it just goes on and on and on as far as good movies. And it does have some downsides as well. It's just kind of it kind of has it has this weird soundtrack part to it. It's like dun, 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 dun. It sounds like it should be in some, I don't know, like uh the music note that keeps being playing, that like dun 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 dun, dun, sounds like it should be played in some kind of soap opera from the 90s, like a Full House kind of thing, and it just doesn't at all. It feels very weird and uncanny in a movie so, rooted in crime and graphic violence. It's just kind of this lighthearted uh, life song. I don't know. It's really weird. So I mean, there are parts of it that are a little weird, and there are parts of it, they're kind of uncanny and definitely goofy at parts. Like at the end of the movie, at the big shootout, there's just like uh, feathers everywhere. The shootout is such a ridiculous scene, very Tarantino, yes, and over the top. But yeah, it comes across as really goofy. So there are parts of it that are negatives. I would say it's about, an 8.5 to 9 out of 10 movie. 8.5 if I was gonna go over, some of the negatives, but overall it's a great movie, and it's just one to the roster of Tarantino-esque movies. So yeah, the movie certainly has a lot of lore. I mean, there's the director's cut edition, the changed from the this edition, and Tarantino of all involved, and the ending alteration thing. There's just so many parts to this movie. But at the end of the day, it's just a very good movie. It's a very Tarantino-esque movie. It's very odd, and certainly modern audiences are probably not going to be too fond of this movie, considering there's a plethora of the N word used. And you know what? You have to kind of take this movie at its face value. If you're wanting a Tarantino-esque movie, you've seen Pulp Fiction a million times. True Romance and Natural Born Killers will work because they were actually meant to be one in the same movie. But these are movies that have that aesthetic, and I would call them Tarantino-esque because Tarantino-esque is just the way he made these movies. But they're just you know uh, uh, un unwilling to abide by social norms. Usually includes massive amounts of graphic violence and random scenes, random issues, random characters, cool scenes, long drawn out moments. It's that style of movie, and it is a cult classic for me. And yeah, I thoroughly loved my viewing of this movie. It takes you on an epic adventure. Clarence Christian Slater is very, very, very epic in it. He's usually looks like a good guy, but at the same time he does very bad things in this, and he goes down a rabbit hole of craziness. It's a good movie, and it's definitely worth a watch. And yeah, True Romance is awesome. So whether you like the Tarantino-esque movies or not, True Romance is a good movie. It's an epic little crime run through. You got James Gandolfini in his prime, a young Tony Soprano, even though he dies, and you got things like incredible Gary Oldman, random Brad Pitt, who seems to almost be in his element in prime, and just an overall crazy, intense, epic movie. True Romance, awesome movie. 9 out of 10 to 8.5 material. Certainly a good movie. Certainly a cult classic.